Okay, Isla, shall we start? I think we should. Okay. Well, thanks for coming. And I'm Wapio. And if you know me, you know that I always want to start anything that I do, especially with folks I haven't really met yet, that you know that what page I'm on. I like to start with thanking the people who've helped me on the way, who've influenced me. So I'm going to do it real quick. All right. So first of all, I want to thank the Indigenous midwives of the United States because they were Black women who lived in the very poorer sections of the U.S. in the South. And all these times when women were going to hospitals and it wasn't common anymore to have midwives, these midwives were still practicing. And they never let the chain of midwifery be broken in our country. All right. They sometimes help birth all the babies in the county that they lived in, and they don't get enough credit. Many of them are passed away right now. They're not alive anymore. They were practicing in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And then they were asked to retire back in the 60s and 70s. They were asked to retire because they were no longer needed. Midwifery had kind of made a comeback, and the grand midwives were kind of let go. But these grand midwives practice without being clinical practitioners. All right. They never did vaginal exams. They never gave you any kind of a shot or anything like that. They didn't do anything clinical. And they had some of the best statistics in our country. All right. Because they were practical women. They were not clinical. They were all about the business of birth and babies, and they were amazing. And when I first became a midwife, there were a few of them this is back in the early 80s. Like in 81, 82, I started my journey to midwifery, and I went to visit them. All right. I went to visit some of these elder Black women, and they were so full of information. So I have to thank them. And then I have to thank Michel Audin, who is the French doctor. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he is someone to read. All right. Back in the 70s, he started talking about the demedicalization of childbirth. He coined the phrase undisturbed birth. And he has had an endearing, he's so venerable. He has had a huge influence in my life, all right, in the sense of undisturbed birth and returning birth to the family. And then last but not least, for 20 years, I worked with women, and I gained the trust of many women and families. And because I did that, and because it was important to me, women really shared what they wanted, what they really wanted, not what they wanted me to hear or what I thought they needed to say. They shared with me a lot of what they wanted. And then after I had gone to, a practice for 20 years, some of them started to say, well, Wapio, we've taught you a lot of good stuff. You've got to go out now and teach. You've got to spread the word about why birth is totally upside down right now. And so I said I would. So I've been teaching for the past 20 years. This is my 40th year in birth. Okay. And I'm very proud to feel like I'm an elder midwife. My community calls me that now. And that's a long way from when I first started practicing midwifery. And it was back in the early 80s, and the midwifery renaissance had not come to the South where I was living. And people didn't know the word midwife wasn't really an active word anymore. It was something that you read about in a book. Years ago, people had midwives, all right? So nobody called me a midwife. They would call me the lady that comes to your house when you give birth. And I loved it. I loved being called the lady who sits with you at birth. All right. And I guess maybe 5 or so years later, midwifery kind of became around, and then people started calling me a midwife. All right. But I really liked the idea that I was the lady that sat with you at birth. All right. And that is exactly how I feel right now. That would be my practice. I'm the lady that tends you in pregnancy, postpartum, and sits with you in birth. So, um, so those are the folks that I have to thank for teaching me. All right. And when I say that birth is upside down, what I mean is that over the years, let's just say I've been in birth for 40 years, and what I've noticed, there are changes. I haven't really noticed changes in the caregivers. All right. And if anything, caregiving has gotten more strict here. All right. There are more regulations and more rules and more guidelines than there were 20, 30 years ago. But what I have seen change is the women and families. Women are beginning to realize that this is the most amazing transformation that they're going to have with this child. And you're only going to do this once. You're only going to birth this child one time. And women are realizing that there's a huge transformation waiting for them in pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And they're showing up for that. All right. Maybe 20 years, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago, when doulas came on the scene, women back then felt like, oh, I need someone. It's going to be really hard. I mean, I've heard about the agony of birth, and the transformation of birth was not on anybody's mind. It was more like, how will I get through the birth? And what I've noticed today is that the women aren't worried about the pain like they used to be. They're really invested in the transformation. All right. That's what they're going after. They want the transformation. They know it's going to be possibly challenging. All right. They know that there's going to be some pain and whatnot, but that's okay. It's worth it because I want the transformation. And this just does something exhilarating to my soul. All right. I've been waiting years in a way for more and more women to come, to rise up and say, no, we want our birth. This is big for me. This is what comes across my visage and my door. Women saying, I want my birth. I really don't want the curated experience of the hospital. It's artificial. I don't really even want what sometimes I'm offered at home, the midwife's idea of what a birth should be. I want my birth. I get it. Don't you get it? This is amazing. I mean, I've been waiting for this part of evolution revolution. All right. So what can I do? What can I offer women? Well, I can offer women you. Okay. Because they are looking for a caregiver that gets it, that gets what they want. And what they're looking for, generally speaking, across the board, is a caregiver that is not clinical. All right, a caregiver that doesn't have protocols, a caregiver that is working for them rather than the system or their license or their colleagues. All right. And this is what women want. They want somebody who is working for them. If you asked me what I had to tell pregnant women right now, out of all the things we could even Rolodex, all right, I would say, following this little meme I once saw on Facebook, and I don't know, it was anonymous, so I don't know who to credit, but what it said was the greatest risk for a woman in childbirth today is her choice of caregiver. Do you know what I mean? All right. Because that's who's going to direct your birth. That's whose birth you're going to get, unless you have a good discussion with this person, all right? Or unless you find someone that isn't going to immediately see you as someone to be managed, okay? What I would say to women is, don't give birth with anyone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. It often doesn't go well, all right? You want someone for whom you are the first priority. And that's really hard to get. All right, because most caregivers are attached to a system. And if you're attached to a system, a medical system, a clinical system, a university system, you are expected to carry those protocols. All right, you're expected to work for the system. And then you work for the people in it, and then you work for your your colleagues, okay, your license and whatnot. So what we have here in the US and probably in many, many places that I have looked at, even places that I thought were very progressive, like France or something, it's doulas are being arrested. It's like, what is happening here? So what I'm thinking is it's really, really hard to find a caregiver that puts you first. All right, that you are their first priority. Uh, it's just not happening with most caregivers. And I understand it. Once we politicize and make it academical, once we make birth professional, all right, we lose the ancient art of the lady who sits with you at birth. Okay. So what I meant was, now that women are waking up, what can I give them? I can give them you. Meaning I can teach you, I can offer you a midwifery education. All right. I can't offer you a ticket to practice. I can't offer you a certification that says you're a midwife, but I can give you that education. All right. And it's the education that I wish I had had when I started going to births back in the 80s, in the mid 80s. There wasn't anything right then. Now there are many wonderful places to learn about birth, but and do it. Why? Because no matter how you project what's happening, things are changing. Things are going to change. All right. We are in an intersection right now where birth isn't working for women. In the US, we're having people actually just jump ship and say, well, I'm not going to a hospital. I know the hospital doesn't have my back and nobody in it seems to. So what do I do? Where do I go? Who can I find that will sit with me at my birth? Who can I find that trusts birth? All right, trusts me. Okay, understands that truly what's happening in hospitals today is not evolutionary. I mean, just think about the family and think, well, an artificially curated experience of birth is what you get in a hospital. And the best part of it is you come through it alive. All right. But what we're seeing is many women are coming through it really alive, but scarred, unsatisfied with their births, unhappy, want to leave the system. And all the practitioners who are clinicalizing and managing them, and they're looking for somebody like you, somebody who gets it, somebody who says, yes, I can be that lady who sits with you and can be that lady competently and confidently. All right. That's what women want. Over the years, that's what I've seen. Women want somebody for them who is really, really for them. And it was so interesting because when midwives kind of came around again back in the 80s, women were saying the same thing. Oh, we're going to have midwives and they're going to be for us. All right. We're going to have and they're going to be all hours. And that's not what happened. Midwives wanted to be validated. They wanted to be licensed and certified and whatnot. And so with that came the clinical model. And women were like, okay, back to square one. All right, so here it is. Birth is going to change. What's happening in birth is not sustainable right now. Women want a more holistic birth. They want a more quantum birth, and they want a more quantum caregiver. And that's what I can offer the world. All right, caregivers who did do a devotional year for the study of birth, and they did do their due diligence so that they are ready now to offer women the kind of birth that a woman wants. All right, what you see oftentimes in care is that birth just goes around in a circle, and it's a closed circle. All right, women want it to be a spiral. They want it to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Why? Because they know there's so much more out there. They know that this is a rite of passage, giving birth. Okay. And in a rite of passage, it's challenging. It's supposed to be challenging. Why? Because it's an experience of maturity. And women are looking for that experience of maturity and somebody who will witness that with them. All right, they don't want anyone to do it for them. Honestly, I think at first women were like, "Oh, doulas, they'll carry us up the hill." All right, and now women are like, "No, that's not what we wanted either." Exactly, we wanted somebody to walk alongside with us and witness us, but not guide us. Why? Because then it's not a real rite of passage. A rite of passage is something that you do on your own. And that's the maturity factor. And women are waking up to that. And they don't want to be managed. And they don't want their doulas to tell them how to give birth. They want to have it themselves. But you know what? This is what I hear. I hear, well, I know that a lot of women today are having what we would call a free birth. They're doing it themselves. And it's working splendidly. We're not hearing headlines about how the babies are dying. In fact, they're not. In fact, the statistics for home birth, if someone were brave enough to gather them up, would be, I think, put the rest of the whole hospital world to shame. All right, I do. Why? Because women are able to follow their own instinctual responses in birth when they free birth. And that alone takes them through, all right, without a mishap. Yeah, things are going to happen. But, I was talking to Isla before we started, and I was telling her that, I practiced for 20 years in an area of our country that was not resourced. Many women came to my practice because it was less expensive. All right. They couldn't afford a doctor and a hospital. All right. And my prices were very, very, very reasonable. All right. And all in those years, I have only seen one woman have a hemorrhage. Yet many of my colleagues see 5 out of 10 women having hemorrhages. It's like, what? I just didn't see complications. I've only resuscitated one baby, all right, in all my years, 20 years of birth and, working. The complications just don't happen. Why? Because women don't need them. These are women's complications, by the way. And a labor can create a complication. A complicated situation can come up simply because of the people in the room. Are you with me on this? All right. It totally matters who is in the room with you. And this is why women are free birthing in many ways. In many ways, it's a very empowering thing for a woman to do, and it has nothing to do with who's in the room. All right. But many people also are saying, I haven't found the right people to be in the room with me. So we're just going to do it on our own. And yay. All right. So once again, you could be the right people. Here's why. Because you know what women say to me? Oh, I love my free birth walk. It was amazing. And you know what? I wish I had one other thing. I wish there was one other thing. I'd be like, what? And you know what they would say? I wish there was the presence of a wise woman in the room. Isn't that amazing? I wish I had had a wise woman just sitting in the corner, just there, just witnessing me. I didn't want her to do anything. All right. And I wanted a wise woman. So, I know she wouldn't do anything because she knows better. All right. And she wouldn't come into my field unless I called her. And she wasn't the star of my birth at all. She wasn't the big cheese telling everybody what to do. She made way for my partner and I to experience this creation of family together. Look what happens in a hospital or in sometimes even home births. The father of the baby, the partner, is relegated to wallpaper and doesn't get a chance to show up, right? To be with his wife and child, his partner and child, okay? It is a terrible thing that we've shut out men from births. All right. And assume that they're not qualified to attend a birth emotionally or maturely. That is so far from wrong. In all of my years, I only met one man who didn't want to show up. All right. And I think it's the way we're presenting it to them. I feel like what we're trying to do is shame them into showing up sometimes, and this is what you need to do. And no, birth goes so beautifully when a man and a woman, the dad and the mom, okay, are seamlessly united with each other. Okay, one time I was working in the South, and oftentimes I had long rides. All right, lots of different places that I went to, and I was hired by a couple, and they were having a late in life baby. They had two girls, and both of those girls were in their 20s, and now they're having another baby. And at first, I think they were like, "What?" And then they were like, "Oh no, this is going to be great. This is going to be great." So I would go visit them, and I really liked them. They were a very mature couple. Her husband, his name was Buddy, and he was the strong, silent type. And we do prenatals, and he would just kind of stand there and watch, and listen. Well, this is before cell phones. All right. So he wasn't on his cell phone. All right. Because we didn't have them. But he was just, the strong, silent type. He didn't say much. He just listened. Okay. So here's what happened. She called me one time. She said she thought she was in labor. I took the hour and a half drive down there. When I got there, she said, "Oh, Wapio, I'm so sorry. After I called you, everything stopped. Too bad we don't have cell phones." All right. So I go home. And then it happened again. And she called me and I went, and it was the same thing. The labor had stopped while I was on the road. She had no way to contact me. And I was like, "Well, okay." And she was apologetic. And I'm like, "No, no, no. This is what we do." All right. So the next time she she didn't want to keep doing that. So she waited for a long time. And then when she called me, she said, "Well, I'm definitely in labor and you're not going to make it." And I was like, "Okay, I'm coming." All right. She said, "Well, maybe you don't even need to because I'm going to have the babies really soon." And I said, "Of course I'm coming." So anyway, I get there and they have their baby. Okay. And it's beautiful. And even her placenta had come out. All right. Without anyone monitoring it. And at one point, she said to me, she was apologizing. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I should have called you earlier. I know that you raced down the highway, and then I was like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I missed your birth. I wouldn't have done that for all the world. I'm sorry." And she said, "Wait a minute." She said, "Don't apologize to me." I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "No, listen." She said, "Something happened between Buddy and I." She said, we were seamless together. He anticipated everything I needed, anything I wanted. All I had to do was point, or we were seamless together. Something happened to us. Our marriage. We have reconsecrated ourselves. And she said, "Nothing personal, Wapio. We love you and all this and that. But if you were here, that would never have happened." See what I mean? Why? Because he would have given his power to me. Because he would have seen me as the person who was the most knowledge in the room, and therefore he would concede to that. But I'm not there. Therefore, the two of them instinctually, all right, birthed their baby. And for her, it was one of the highlights of her life, the birth, but also the reconnection she had with her partner, who knew exactly what she needed and what to do. See what I mean? Women are having free births because that's what they want. It's not just all about, I don't want the wrong person in the room. It's, I want to have connection with the right person in the room. And I wished, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to have the presence of a wise woman in the room. That's what I would like. And I'm like, yeah, the lady who sits with birth, the lady who sits with you at birth, right? That's what they wanted. And I would want that, wouldn't you? All right. So let's become that person. And once you carry that vibration, once you carry that vibration, and I'm not talking about being a midwife. You can be a midwife if you want to. You can call yourself anything you want. I'm going back to the lady who sits with you at birth. Okay. And you have that vibration. People know that, they feel that, they want to be in your field because you have something for them. Because I'm telling you, women are waking up all over. Now, I hear that there's a lot of apathy in certain places, and that's a feeling, I think, of resignation, that there's nobody for us. Okay, there's nobody who can come and sit with us during our birth. There's no wise women out there who are, a fountain of information, a fountain of information, all right, and wisdom and maturity. And it doesn't matter how many births you've gone to, or it doesn't matter how many kids you have, all right, or haven't, okay? It's about where you want to put your energy in showing up in your community. All right. And I know that this is not for everyone. I'm very clear that there are many people who do want to be managed and do want to be in a hospital and feel safer, much safer in a hospital. And for them, and that's great. A field of flowers doesn't all bloom at the same time, right? So I'm looking at the women who are blooming now, the women who are the vanguard of how birth is going to change. Okay. If these are the women, the caregivers don't change birth. Have you noticed that? They don't really change it. Okay. They get in a space where, well, this is how you have your baby. Okay. And this is it. This is what goes on. No. All right. Right. The women are here and they're blowing a trumpet and stomping on the ground. Not everywhere, but it's coming. Oh, just sit on the ground someday and feel what you feel happening underneath the earth. It's women, okay? It's women getting ready to rise up, all right, and claim one of the most important things in their life to them, the creation of family, their partner being respected, okay, and connected. And their partner being their perfect, intimate advocate if they're going into a hospital, by the way. We are not throwing people who go into the hospital under the bus at all. We've got something for you too, all right? Doulas, a whole different kind of doula, a doula that doesn't feel like she has to guide you through birth. Because at the end of it, here's what people tell me. Wapio, I had a really good birth. It was really nice. My doula was wonderful. And I almost feel sheepish saying this, because I did have a good birth. It was okay, but Fabio, I feel like something was missing. You know what women are talking about? I do. It's not about having a good birth, getting the baby out. It's about, what did you learn? What gifts were showered upon you as a pregnant, birthing, postpartum woman? That's what I missed. I missed something deeper. I missed the deep part, the soul part of my birth. Okay. Clinically, it all went well. Physiologically, I made it through without tearing or whatever. Okay. Emotionally, I'm happy. I have a baby, but my soul is still empty. I want my birth next time. And I love my doula. And I love my midwife. And I'm grateful I love my doctor, grateful for all these people. But you know what? I feel like I didn't do it myself. Oh, wow. I feel like I missed something. Something didn't happen for me. I know what that is. All right. After years of experience. When I heard the Hispanic description of giving birth, to give birth, all right, they don't say to give birth, they say dar a luz, to give light, to give the light, all right. When I first heard that was a defining moment in my life because it changed my practice, and I'm grateful that it changed my practice early on. Okay. Why? Because I instinctively knew that, yes, this woman has received the light from those little sperm. They're light carriers, right? Okay. And they sparkle. They do. They have little mitochondria. And as they're coming down the tube there, they give off photons of light. All right. So here comes the light and the ovum. All right. The largest cell in your body, that ovum is spinning and spinning. And she sees the light coming down. And she stops her spin and she takes a look. And then at some point, she decides, I'll receive the light and I'll gestate it. Okay. And then when we're finished with our gestation, I will give it back to you. Okay. That light that I accepted from you and gestated, I will give it back to you. And it will be our light. I'm not making this up. Okay, at all. This fertilization and conception is one of the most noble things that go on the planet. Really, okay? But what's happening here? When you have a dad who steps up to catch that light, to receive that baby, to receive that light, you see what you're making? The light goes into the mother and she gestates it and she gives it and he holds it and puts it down between them, and then she picks up that baby again and makes a commitment to nurse and take care of that baby. And there he is, the archangel now. Okay, when I go to births now, I am not in a person's field anymore. Once I realize that this is what's going on, that women give light, I never caught a baby again. It's not my privilege. It's not my privilege to put my hands on someone else's child. Are you with me? It's not my privilege to catch the light. I'm not the one that's supposed to receive the light. All right. And very quickly, women taught me that. They were like, Wapio, we're going to tell you the truth. We don't want you to be in our field. And I mean, that's what I was trained like that. You catch the baby. That's what the midwife does and whatnot. And, but I only did that. I only did that because I don't know, am I supposed to do this? It never really felt right. And then after that, Dara loose, giving the light, I never caught a baby again. All right. I was never in a woman's field. Who caught the baby? Well, whoever she wanted to. But usually the people that I worked with, they wanted the dad to catch the baby. Okay. And I would just sit over, I would be that lady who was in the, sitting in the corner knitting. And for heaven's sakes, if the wise woman is over in the corner knitting, I guess everything's okay, right? All right. And I saw birth after birth after birth of men becoming archangels and women, giving the light and the dad catching that light. And you know what dads do? They are so amazing. I don't tell anybody what to do here, ever. I don't tell women what position to birth in. But you know what? Most women I have found, when you leave them alone and they are organically, and you haven't programmed them, oh, you need to squat or you need to do this, when they are instinctively responding to birth and the baby's coming, most women get down on one knee. All right. I don't tell women about this. Sometimes I tell them about it, but you can do whatever you want. They don't get in their beds. I gotta tell you that. All right. They don't squat. Why? Because squatting is not germane to the women in the USA. They don't do a lot of squatting. They don't scrub their floors, on their hands and knees. And you know what I'm saying? And so they don't squat because they feel like, we'll fall over. They don't go on hands and knees, maybe in labor, but on hands and knees, they're disconnected from their baby. Okay. All right. What they do is they kneel on one knee. Whoa, this is so strong. You know what I'm saying? They kneel on one knee. They can stretch out if they need to. They can circle their hips around. They're free. They're not captive in a bed or captive on a monitor. They're free. They get their babies out. They know how to birth. All right. It's so instinctual. And you just watch in amazement as a woman births her baby and her partner is there to receive that light. And you know what? I don't tell men to do this, but they know somehow. They just put the baby down, face down. You know what I'm saying? They just put the baby down between them. between the mother and the father. So here, once again, she received the light. She gestated the light. She's in birth now. She's giving the light. He receives that light that he gave way back in there, that he receives that light. Then he puts the light down between them, face down. Men just do this organically when they're not prompted or running testosterone. Oh, okay. Do men have oxytocin? Well, of course they do. But if a man feels like he's got to protect his partner and his baby, he will run testosterone, not oxytocin. Meanwhile, he's got, okay, so he's full of oxytocin, just like his partner. There's no testosterone or adrenaline in the room. All right. There's birth in the room and the creation of family. And he has, he's taken that light and he's not grabbing it for himself. He's putting it between them. All right. Because something else has to happen here. All right. And oftentimes he just waits. Why? Because I have found that when a woman is not disturbed, she's not ready to receive her baby right away. All right. You watch some videos, all right, and you'll see that a woman who's left alone on her own instincts realizes that she is still integrating molecular changes in her body. She has been out to the farthest universe she can make it to. All right. And now she's coming back. There's this place that I call the return. All right. And it's so important. It's right after the birth of the baby, where that baby is right there. Okay. And her archangel is right there. There's no testosterone. There's no chance that someone's going to run in and snatch up her baby. So what you will see is that she just needs a moment. She just needs to come back. All right. Okay, she just needs to be reintegrated. And what you'll see is after, sometimes it's 5 minutes. Okay. Like I said, I call this the return. What's happening? You think, oh my God, the baby's just lying there. Nobody's got the baby. The husband isn't even picking the baby up. The mother isn't. What's going on here? What should I do? Should I go over there? Should I get the baby? Shh. All kinds of things are going on. All right, that you can't see. You can't see, all right, that this baby is beginning to breathe and breathe comfortably. You can't see that the placenta as advocate is going to say, okay, baby's breathing comfortably. I'm going to download the baby's blood. All right, that takes 4 minutes? No wonder moms don't pick their babies up right away. And then there's this other miracle. That fetus is changing over from fetal to neonatal circulation, right? This is a miracle of physiology. And so all of this takes about 5 minutes. The placental download, the changeover from fetal to neonatal circulation, the closing of the hole in the heart. Amazing, all right, when you learn that. And what's happening? The mother is just coming back. She's returning. She's not programmed in a way to pick up her baby right away. Women do that, and I know they do that because someone else will. All right. Women will snatch their babies. But have you ever seen that they'll just put the baby here and they're still kind of like, oh, all right, they're not quite ready. And then they take your baby and they receive their baby. Okay. This is so beautiful. And okay, so what happens? What happens next? All right, this is so fascinating. What happens next is this, that there's that baby changing over from fetal, just lying between them, face down, breathing, placental download happening. All right. And then at some point, and then there's the father, and the father is like, he's got them. He knows, just he's going to watch and wait because something amazing is going to happen now. All right. So out come the wings, and the father's usually crying. All right. He's usually having tears in his eyes. Okay. And all of a sudden, all right, you get the idea that the mom is back. It's like, oh, Oh, okay. All right. And she'll look down at her baby, and then she'll pick up her baby. What is she doing? She's picking up their light. He's watching this. See? And what's happening here? She's now agreeing to be this baby's lifeline. All right, to nurse this baby, to take care of this baby. All right, and she'll look up at him like, I've got our light. You're in, right? You're in. And he's crying. And then she'll look at me like, you see this, Wapio, right? You're witnessing what's happening here, right? And I'm like, thumbs up. Okay. And then what happens? Well, we do know this, that the retinas of a mother's eyes and a baby's eyes begin to sparkle. They begin to give off photons of light. And the mother and the baby create this phase lock. Like, I know you, and you know me, and I will never lose you, and you will never lose me. All right. And a lifelong relationship is being created here, no matter how it looks. I'm not discussing how it looks. I'm just saying it happens. All right. You can go any way it wants. And we haven't really looked to see if that's what's going on the father's eyes too. All right. But I know it is. I just know it is. Why wouldn't it? We haven't had fathers in the arena to check their eyeballs, I guess. Okay. But what happens is there's a phase lock between these three people. They are creating a lifelong relationship, no matter how it looks, no matter how it unfolds. It's always there. All right. And I realize over the years now that my job as the midwife, as the birth attendant, as the lady who sits at the birth, is to witness. It's to witness that another family on the planet, another baby has come, another light is shining on this planet, and that baby is going to be taken care of. Okay? This is what my job is. This is what the lady who sits at birth with you does. Okay, so that's the story of birth, the way I have seen it unfold in my practice over and over again. All right, I don't see complications. I see variations of normal, and every woman is unique. All right, and I can respond to those things, or I can just sit back and notice those things and watch her move through her rite of passage, figuring this variation out for herself. I have studied my physiology. I love physiology. All right. And the more I know about physiology, the more I trust the body. And the more I trust the body, I realize that the body knows how to work these things out. I don't have to jump up at every variation of normal and put a chart on it. I know. And here's one of the most beautiful things. This is what women tell me. Wapio, now, okay, I've taken your class. I can walk into a birth, or I can look at a birth video, and I know what's going on. I understand everything. I know, I get it, and I know how to respond to it appropriately. All right, that's what we want to achieve. Okay, in the study of birth and in showing up for birth, you want to have the imprint of authentic organic birth. And sometimes people say to me, Wapio, why are you talking about this? Because that's not happening. I mean, there's too much going on. This is not happening in hospitals. I beg to differ. All right. Women call me and tell me, or write to me and tell me that everything you talked about in those holistic stages of labor, that all happened to me in a hospital. Okay. I'm like, okay, thanks. I need to know that. All right. We're waking up. We're being primed right now to be the vanguard of bringing forth something different in birth, and not just different, something that is evolutionary, something that will evolve us. Okay. I am here for the evolution. I'm telling you. All right. I'm 75 years old and I'm here for the evolution, and I'm not leaving. Okay. I want to see it come to fruition, and I want to see it come to fruition through you. All right. People who are interested and devoted enough to study birth. Okay. To know what's going on, to walk in a room and feel comfortable and confident that you know what's happening here. All right. And oftentimes a lot of people don't. So take that. All right. So I'm going to do this. If you have any questions about, I mean, I could talk forever, but if you have any questions about what we've talked about so far, or Ayla, do you say Ayla or Ayla, or how do you pronounce your name?
Ayla.
Ayla. Okay. So if Ayla, I know Ayla has some notes about things that we could talk about, or you might have any questions. So I'm opening it up. All right, for questions or any other topics.
Seeing I'm on off mute. I've got a few questions, but they might be a bit more relative to when we talk about the cohort. There's a few folk that couldn't make it this morning. But I just got very interested in when you were talking about that moment in between, that almost the void of the one thing before the next, that birth pause. And I remember I did a podcast years ago with this woman that she actually advocated for that. And she spoke so, like, there was a lot of emphasis in her birth on having that moment because it meant so much to her. And I just then thought, I started thinking about how you have quantum birth and holistic birth. And I'd love for you to speak a bit more because, having done midwifery training, there's not one, I don't remember discussing that or, anything like that. And I'd just love to know, is this where that when you spoke of the light and when you spoke of these moments in your witnessing, is this where you're calling that quantum and that holistic in your training? Is that where that's coming from? Is that where that light is coming from? Is that the quantum part? Is that the witness to the light? And I was wondering if you could just speak a bit more into that.
Yes, and I will. And the lady who sits with you at birth tends your soul and your body. Okay. Today, a lot of prenatal care is focused really on your body and your physiology and what's going on with you clinically. Okay. So, and I feel like women feel that they are shortchanged a bit. Where's the person that's going to be interested in the dreams I'm having? I used to say that to women. I used to say, so have the dreams started yet? And a woman would be like, Bobby, how did you know? She said, it's my dreams are amazing. I have to wear a seatbelt to bed. All right. And I'm like, okay, yeah, the veils are becoming thin to all these other altered states, okay, of being, of deeper states of consciousness. All right. And they're like, yes, you're right, Wapio. And I don't even feel like I come back into ordinary reality. I feel like I'm always living in this sensual daydream kind of state. And I'm like, yes. And oftentimes women are living in pregnant women, birthing women, postpartum women even are living in a different state of consciousness than ordinary reality. All right. And we can talk about that in a minute. Okay. But what I'm saying is that oftentimes women don't feel that their soul is fed during their pregnancy. And what happened was that we went from a very clinical time, like when my mother was having me in 1947, birth was not a pretty picture. Today, we would be shocked. There would be 10 women in a room, all with these, like a ward, and all of them would have a curtain around it. And there would be women crying, and there would be women hollering, and the nurses would come in and yell at you, shh, and stuff like that. And there was no comfort. Your husband was told to go home. You got dropped off at the hospital, and told that we will call you and tell you whether you had a girl or a boy and when visiting hours are next. Okay. This was in 1947. And my mother also had something called twilight sleep. And twilight sleep was a medication that was given to women. It's hallucinogenic. It was not really a pain reliever. It was a hallucinogenic, so that when you came on the other side of your birth, you didn't remember what your labor was like. So you couldn't remember the pain. You couldn't remember anything. I mean, it was quite barbaric. All right. And oftentimes women were not allowed to have their babies right away. When women got pain relief, you had to have a newborn nursery. All right. Before that, they didn't, but you had to have a newborn nursery because you're going to see complications, because the woman is hallucinating during her labor. Okay. And you can't give her her baby now. She has to get off of that medication. I'm serious. This is, it's a while back, but I survived it. Okay. And this is the era when babies were picked up and they were smacked on the bottom, and all of that. And so what would you call this paradigm? We call it actually a technocratic paradigm, because it was told to us by scientists, and professionals. This is how you have to have your baby. This is the best way to have a baby. And we all agree. I guess, people were told this is the best way. I mean, I asked my mother why she did that. She said, because we were told this was the best way. And I said, well, why but you didn't nurse me either, right? And she said, oh, nobody on this planet ever loved a baby more than I loved you. And you will never say that, I didn't nurse you. She said, you know why I didn't nurse you? Because we were told that if you wanted your baby to be healthier and smarter, you would give them formula. So we gave you formula because we wanted you to be healthier and smarter. I was like, whoa, thanks, Mom. Okay. Anyway, that's a paradigm that is no longer, well, some people say it's still around. It's an authoritarian paradigm. Yeah, you'll probably see it everywhere. The doc's on the top, the family's on the bottom. The doc tells you what to do and you do it. Okay. And you don't question it. All right. That's that paradigm that my mom birthed me in. Then we got a little more humane. Okay. People started saying, this is barbaric. I mean, what must this young mother coming in here listening to this other woman across the room screaming? It's like, what? And the hospitals were like, yeah, I guess we could do better. And so we had two people in a room now. All right, much better. Women wanted respect. Women wanted to be able to make choices on their own. And so, the hospital was sort of like, okay, we can't tell you can't make choices, but we'll give you the little, do you want the pink room or the blue room? Do you want your vaginal exam now, or do you want to wait a little while? Those were the choices you got. All right. And then there was an author named Hency Gore who wrote a great book, 3 of them, and said, we're getting the illusion of choice. We need to have a more holistic model of care. So we had in the 90s, we had this holistic model of care that took into consideration your body, mind, and spirit. All right. And it was also called the midwifery model because the hospital wasn't ready to initiate a holistic model. All right. But women who went to midwives were ready to initiate something like that with you. And then here's what happened. The holistic model was moving along. All right, pretty good. And then licensing came in. Licensing and certification and registration. And it just made the holistic paradigm kind of collapse. All right, can you see what I'm talking about? everything, the focus changed to professionalism again. All right. The focus changed to checking boxes and protocols. And now we have another group of caregivers, midwives. Okay. We have to keep our eye on them. All right. So what will we do? We'll professionalize them and make sure that they're, doing the right thing according to the medical model. So that's what's happening. All right. And it has happened since the 90s, later 90s, when people realized, well, our midwives are wonderful. They're great people. They spend more time with you than the docs. But at the end of the day, it's the same story. All right. Yes, you have to have the glucose tolerance test. Yes, there will be a group beta strep test. Yes, if you go over by a certain amount of days, you have to be transferred out of the care. Yes, you will have to. And women are like, I thought you were on our side, and midwives were like, well, take it or leave it. We worked hard to get here, and we're going to give you the best care we can. All right. But yeah, you still have to do you have to do the clinical stuff. Women were like, oh, we want somebody for us. Okay. So now here comes this quantum paradigm, right? I mean, I kind of just made this up in the sense that I realized that I wasn't seeing a lot of women with problems, babies. I told you, one hemorrhage in 20 years. All right. One resuscitation in 20 years. And this is about 500 births. Okay. I didn't go to thousands of births, but 500. That's not bad. So I said to myself, why do I not see these complications? Why do I feel horrified when someone says 5 out of 10 women bleed? I'm like, what? So I thought, well, what am I doing that's different? So I call this a quantum paradigm. Why? Because I love the word quantum. It reminds me of taking a great leap forward, all right, into some other realm of understanding. So here's what I decided to do. I decided that what I was doing, all right, was nurturing women. I was very, very nurtured. I felt that when women got pregnant, they wanted to be affirmed and supported and nurtured. And what I saw in the clinical model was that women were given risk screening and anxiety. And I thought, that's a terrible thing to offer a pregnant woman, risk screening and anxiety, rather than nurturing, okay, and affirmation. So that's what I decided to do, to affirm people, pregnant women. And then, well, I'm a pretty self-directed person. I like to be. I don't have any licenses, nor do I want any. I want to work for you. All right. For God above, my source of consciousness and the family. That's who I want to work for. And I want to give you individualized care rather than everybody gets everything. Okay. That's the difference between equality and equity. I want equitable behavior. Equality means everybody gets the same thing. Equitable means everybody gets what they need and want. No, not just the same thing. Not just everyone gets that test across the board. All right. People who need it and want it get it. Other people can say no. Okay. All right. So I want to be self-directed. I want to work for you. I want to be your lady. Okay. Or who sits in the corner. And I want you to be self-directed. I mean, anytime I've ever had a client who wanted to be self-directed, I just pulled out all the stops and said, how can we make this work? You want to have your baby down by the river where that tree that was struck by lightning is. I understand that would feed your soul. You feel that's a very sacred place and you'd like to have your baby down there. How can we make that work rather than, well, it's going to be the middle of winter when you're due. How's that going to work for you? Okay. I wouldn't say that. I would say that, and you would be able to be like, everything crashes. All right. No, I would say, well, how can we make that happen? You see what I mean? This is the difference. Let me go the distance with you. All right. Let me help facilitate how you can make that happen. So this is an actual story. A couple the dad was a Native American and he wanted to have the baby down about a half a mile down the river, okay, under this tree that was struck by lightning, very sacred. And I didn't tell him or remind him or scold him by saying, oh, it's wintertime. I just said, like I told you, how can we make this happen? Well, when I said that to them, they were like, oh, Wapio, we're going to get tarps and we've got these pallets. We're going to get them. We're going to make like a little room down there, so she'll be comfortable and whatnot. And they were so amazing, right? And then about 2 or 3 months later, they came back to me and they said, the energy output that it would take to make that place a safe place is not where we want to spend our pregnancy energy. So we're not going to do that after all. We're going to have the baby here in our home. All right. But what if we had a baby naming ceremony in the summer down there by that tree and by the river? Would you come, Wapio? I was like, yes. Okay. So this is how we empower. We don't really empower people. This is how we inspire people to take their power. They wanted to do this. How can we help you? They decided not to do it after all. How can I facilitate what you want, what you do want at home? All right. That's the quantum paradigm. The quantum paradigm is I work for you. All right. You are my priority. I facilitate you rather than you facilitate me. I want to be the birth keeper that you want. Oftentimes, the midwife needs you to be the client that she wants. Okay? All right, there's a big difference. Okay, trust. All right, so we've got nurturing, we've got soul level connections. I will go deep with you if you want to. Okay? I worked with a woman one time and she said to me, Wapio, do you belong to the Y? And I don't know if the Y is all through the world, but it's like a YMCA and they have classes in swimming and they have a big pool and all this and that. And she said, I said, no, but I could. What's up? And she said, well, I'd like to do some of my prenatal care at the pool. And I was like, oh, okay. So what we would do is this. She would call me up every month or, every couple of weeks, every week sometimes. And she'd say, you want to go to the pool? And she'd always call when it was like dinner time. So when we went to the pool, there was hardly anybody there. The day classes were gone and night classes hadn't started. And we had the pool to ourselves. And what we would do is we would get in the water and we'd, paddle out to the deep end under the diving board, right? And we would just kind of, just what do you call that? Tread water. All right. And we'd be up to here in the water, in the deep end. We were in the deep end now. And in the deep end is where she told me everything. Her dreams, her hopes, her future plans, what was going on in her life, what was going on with her partner, things that she loved, things that she hoped came true, everything in the deep end. She told me everything in the deep end. Why? Because I made time and I valued what she valued. She valued her prenatal care in the deep end. So let's make that happen. All right. Once I worked with a woman and she said, Wapio, do you like nature? And I'm like, yeah. Do you like hiking? I was like, hiking light. Okay. I said, what's up? And she said, well, we love nature. We used to live in Alaska and we'd go kayaking and sometimes we wouldn't see another human being for a week. And she said, we love nature and we want to take you here, where she lived, not to Alaska, but we want to take you to some of our favorite places because these are sacred. This is where we worship in the great cathedral of nature. And we want to take you there. We want to show you what we love. This is what prenatal care is all about. Yes, I have time to go hiking with you. Another woman said to me, so Wapio, do you like to dance? So yes, I do. She said, well, how about this? When you come for prenatals, we'll dance first. I'm like, okay. And you bring your music, I'll bring my music, and we'll just dance. And she had this big room, like a yoga studio, all right, with mirrors and everything. And we would put music on and we would just dance. We would just dance. All right. And we would, I mean, we weren't waltzing together or anything. We would just dance together. And I learned how her body moves. I learned how seamlessly it moves. I learned how we could be seamless together. Okay. I wouldn't have to disturb her at all in any way because she showed me through her dance and I showed her through my dance how we communicate. Okay. This is a quantum paradigm, having that deep soul level connection with someone. All right. And then there's this thing called trust, trust and transparency. And I have always wanted to be a trustworthy person with the women that I worked with. I never, ever tried, or I tried very hard not to ever create a power dynamic with the women who came under my care. I never felt that I knew more about their bodies than they do. How could I? And they appreciated the wisdom and the experience that I've had at sitting at births. They don't have that, but they have the wisdom of their own body, and I respect that. Okay. And so I became trustworthy for women. And, when I would first meet them, I would never put a history out on them. You know what I'm saying? You go and you have to fill out this history and, who are you and what, how many terminations of pregnancy you had and how many sexually transmitted disease and how many pounds of sugar you eat a week and what, has your mother been in a mental institution? I mean, these things are horrible to ask someone that you're trying to develop a relationship with, right? That creates a power dynamic right there. It's very subtle. And we've set it up to be very subtle. Oh, I just need to get some information about you so I can help you. No, information is usually when you're in a trusting relationship with someone, information usually comes to the surface when it's needed. All right, when it's needed, when you're trusting someone. Okay, so I never created a power dynamic with anyone. I never asked them any of those questions. All right, it's none of my business how many abortions you've had, unless you want to tell me. Okay. All right. So, and you can ask me anything as well. All right. We've set it up so that the caregiver can ask you any question and expect you to tell the truth, get angry with you if you don't tell the truth. Yet you're not asking them anything. You're not asking them when the last time they had a glass of wine was. Okay. Or whatever. All right. So I feel like the way we set up the whole thing in prenatal care and pregnancy is based on a power dynamic. All right. And then that just continues to grow because then that person begins to give you instructions and orders and things about, what you need to do to please her or him. And then, of course, when it comes to your birth, we're going to step in as the star of your birth and tell you how you should birth your baby. It's all based on a power dynamic. Do you see what I'm trying to say? This is key. And we do this and hardly anyone's talking about it. I mean, whatever. Okay, so this is quantum. This is what I mean by quantum. We have equitable behavior. We don't create power dynamics because why? We are smart enough to see them. All right. And not fall into that trap of I'm in charge here and you are receiving care from me. Still an authoritarian model of care. All right. This is not holistic even. Holistic meant we got rid of the power dynamic and the woman and the caregiver co-created. Well, that never happened. It happened for a little while and then in came the protocols. Okay. So what else? Last, hang on. I have to sneeze perhaps. Thanks. Maybe not. Okay. And then finally, we've got to know this. Birth does not occur in normal reality. Birth occurs in a altered state of consciousness. All right. Ask any woman, and usually she'll say, "Yeah, you're right. I've never had the language for that, but it was an altered state of consciousness." And you know what? People are trying to pull me out of it. But there was this place I kept trying to go to that wasn't and it felt like my baby was calling me into this place as well. And I'm like, yeah, I know what you mean. Birth happens in an altered state of consciousness. What's an altered state of consciousness, and why do we want to alter our consciousness, for heaven's sakes? Because you will expand your perspective. Okay. If you live only in ordinary reality, you can be sure that your life is a very superficial skimming of what life could be. There are other states of consciousness, and we're very familiar with them. Where are you when you are sleeping? You're not dead, and you're not in ordinary reality. You are in an altered state of consciousness, okay? And isn't it interesting that we need to get a good 7 or 8 hours of altered state of consciousness, rubbing elbows with it? What happens if you don't sleep, if you don't go into that altered state of consciousness? You fracture, you lose your mind. So we are very familiar with altered states. Altered states are not drug-riddled, experiences where people jump off roofs and things like that. No, germane to our experience as a human is the ability to go into deeper, more expansive states of reality, of consciousness. Women find it, especially pregnant women. All right. First of all, women can go into altered states easier than men. They can. Sexually, women can have multiple orgasms. A man usually has one. Okay. All right. Dreams, things like that. Women slip right into the dream world, right? Pregnancy brings it on. The dream world. Okay. What's happening in pregnancy? The veils between you and ordinary reality and altered states of consciousness are very thin, and women fly right into altered states. Okay. Why? Because their perspective expands. Because this is where their baby is. Your baby's not in ordinary reality. Your baby's down in deep, deep delta. And how do you know you're going into altered states, and what gets you into altered states, and what is it? Your brain waves slow down. It's part of there's also hormonal complementations to being in an altered state. Oxytocin and not entheogens. I'll think of it in a minute. All right. That happens, that flows for you. All right. Those things, those hormones can take you into altered states. And what's happening in altered states? Your brain waves are slowing down, and you're going deeper and deeper and deeper. All right. Don't you want to go there? That's where your baby is. We're going all the way from ordinary reality, business as usual. This is where I take your agenda, and this is where the critic lives. Okay, down to a more sensual place. We call this alpha. We have names: beta, alpha, theta, and delta. All right. And women live in alpha when they're pregnant. All right. And then they find it very easy. Those veils are thin to go into deeper states like theta. This is where we heal. This is where we forgive. This is where we change our behavior. We don't do that in ordinary reality. We have to have these altered states to enlarge us as a person. All right. To enrich us. Why? Because in these altered states, we get to see expanded perspectives. Wow, I know why my mother does that. And now what? You find yourself in this altered state of theta, all right, where all of a sudden the big picture is revealed to you, and you're like, I know why she does that. Now you can change your behavior. Now you can forgive someone. Very hard to forgive someone in ordinary reality. It's because the critic lives there. The critic does not live in these altered states. Go there. It's germane to being human. Einstein, whom I love and adore, all right, said that the problems that we have on our planet right now are not going to be solved by the thinking that created them. The problems we have on our planet right now are not going to be solved by the thinking that created them. That's true. Well, where is this other thinking? It's in the expanded reality of altered states. So if you understand altered states, you can walk into a laboring room and know where she is and what's going on. I promise you. Okay. And I wish we could talk about this across the board. I wish birth professionals, nurses, doctors, mystics, everyone, all right, could understand the whole idea and language of altered states. In other words, the nurse could come in the room and she could take a look at you. She would not have to check your cervix. Why? Because she would know that labor is progressing. How would she know? Because you've changed from a different altered state. You've gone deeper and deeper. And as you go deeper, labor progresses. If you stay very much in ordinary reality and very chitty and chatty and all of that, you're not dilating. All right, you're not opening. You see? So if the nurse comes in and you're chatting, she's like, oh, well, we're not, let's give it a little while. She's not progressing right now. No point in checking her cervix. It's going to be 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Whereas she comes in and now you're quieter and you're, I felt that one. She's like, okay, labor is progressing. I don't need to check your cervix. Why? I just need to check your altered state level. Okay. You see what I'm saying? It would be so easy. And so that lady who comes and sits with you at birth, that's what she's doing. She's following you into the altered state realm. All right. Oh, I mean, I have so much more to say, but I want to get to any questions you have or anything like that. So what else do we have, Ella?
I've got a list here, some from other people, but I thought maybe if anyone else wants to speak first, ask a question.
Yeah. Nope. Kate says no. How about Rhiannon? Any questions or nothing? Just traveling along on the flow. Okay, that's wonderful. All right. What do you have?
Okay. So someone has been practicing midwifery in as a registered midwife for many years and looking to so I guess maybe a lot of these questions are in relation to the cohort. So
Okay.
probably you would suggest that people watch the video from last week, which explains really well with the cohort and what it's
Yeah.
all about. Yeah. And so I
I
guess
mean,
what this whole session is talking to people that are interested in the Southern Hemisphere.
well, here's what I thought.
Hmm.
I had been approached by 2 women. Ella was one of them, who are like, well, I'm in Australia, and the time difference is so different, and how would we be in a study group, and I was like, well, why don't we just invite women from Australia, and then you would work together in your own little study group, or big, or however many it was. Okay. And so I thought, well, okay, let me just offer a little get together. All right, like we're doing, talk about the cohort, talk about how it would look if you were in the cohort in Australia, which is very similar to how it would look anywhere else. The main thing was just being in groups where you could study together. All right. So then I said, well, if we could get 10 women coming in, all right, what I would consider doing is because I have a monthly meeting with everyone, and I would consider doing a monthly meeting with just for you. All right, the time slot that would be, agreeable for you. All right. If we had 10 people coming in, and I also said if we had 10 people coming in, I could drop the price $400 for each person. That could help. So I'd love to find 10 people who would like to join us in September. And, I think unless we want to talk about, here's what Ayla asked me to do. She said, maybe some people in Australia don't know who you are. All right. Or they've never they don't even know who you are or something like that. They might have watched a video or two. So why don't you come and teach a lesson or give some ideas about, where the approach of the Matrona is and what's the undergirding of the things that we might learn in this cohort. Well, the undergirding of it all is a lot of the things that I've been talking about, moving into a quantum paradigm. And in your thoughts about birth and thinking, well, what do birthing women want and need? And then I'd also want to talk about, well, how will you show up in your community if you did take this cohort? All right. I mean, is it even feasible? Yes, of course it's feasible. I'll make it feasible for you. All right. And but is it even practical? All right. Is it something that I will use? So I think I'm going to go there and talk about this. Is that okay, Ayla? All right.
Yeah, definitely. Because what the couple of people, like one has had no imprint from the system as a free birthing mama, and then another one that's been working as a registered midwife for many years. And are they like, well, is it, what am I so perfect?
Right. Two ends of the spiral. Okay. All
Mm.
right. So I think I've talked about and I don't want to offend anyone in my talking about midwives, because I know that midwives have spent years becoming midwives, and I appreciate that. And some women need a midwife of sorts, a midwife who can help them with a hospital journey. Some women are high risk, and I'm so glad that there are registered midwives so that they can make things better for high risk women. All right, and so on and so forth. And some midwives they are very hands off. Okay, they want to be. All right, but whatever. I'm just telling you what people have told me, that oftentimes midwives are offering protocols that they don't want. So I hope that's not offensive to anyone, because that's not my point. All right, my point is that women have changed, and there are many women out there that really would like to have a free birth, but they're not ready to have a free birth. They would like to have someone with them, a birth attendant, okay, and or a midwife who is non-registered or something like that. Okay, so let's see. So I'm thinking that the whole idea of, we talked about free birth. All right. And I don't know if free birth is very prevalent in Australia. Is it? Are you seeing people having free births? I mean, unassisted home birth, I guess you would call it. Not too
It
much?
is, but then maybe because it's so much in my field that I'm a bit like, I don't know it is definitely, yeah.
It's happening, or
It's
it's not
happening,
happening.
and it is happening, and has the potential's happening too. So both of those, yeah.
Okay, so this is amazing. This is a punctuation mark on where we want to be, and I'm really glad it's happening, and more people are going to wake up to this. Okay. As I said earlier, the idea is it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants just the presence of a wise woman at the birth. Many women want somebody who is, what shall I say, a fountain of information, knows about birth. Then there are some women who are like, I don't want you to know a lot about birth, because the more you know about birth, the more you'll be clocking me. Right? You know what I'm saying? There was a woman in one of our midwifery classes some years ago, and she came in and she said, well, this woman wants me to be at her birth. And, I told her, well, I'm not a midwife yet. I'm in school. And, I'm not there. And the woman, who happened to be a nurse, said to her, yeah, that's why I want you. You haven't been indoctrinated with a lot of stuff. That's why I want you. You're not going to put me on a chart or a clock or anything like that. So you have women wanting so many different things, right? And I also know that there are women who would like to have someone at their birth, but not have that person manage them, have no protocols whatsoever. They would like that person to be a fountain of information. They would like that person to have skills to be able to recognize if something were truly amiss, all right, and needed intercession or intervention even, all right. And so So, where do you want to come in on this? I'm thinking this. What women want is someone that they do feel is well educated. Why? So you can answer my questions truthfully and with a non-bias in them. It's really hard to get a straight answer sometimes. All right. Do I need fetal testing? My midwife is suggesting it, or my doctor's requiring it. Do I need that? Will somebody tell me the truth about it? The doctor says, one thing, and my midwife another thing, and I don't know if I'm being told the truth. Wapio, do I need this? Give me the whole picture. Don't make my decisions for me. All right. Okay. Thank you, Erica. Don't make my decisions for me. I don't want that. I just want you to give me the right information so I can make my decisions. That's what I like to do. That's the lady who sits at birth. She has all kinds of information. All right. She's competent and confident. She's compassionate and caring. But she doesn't make your decisions. You do. She gives you all the options. You make your decision. This to me is very forward thinking. Why? Because if they make their decisions, they are responsible for the outcome. A lot of people don't want to go there. They don't want to be responsible for the outcome. They don't feel like they're ready to make their own decisions, and they want you to make them for them. And that is very much what midwives do, and what women and people in the system do. And if they're going to make decisions for you, they're going to be responsible to you. And therefore, they're going to manage you. You see? So if you don't want managing, then you have to be ready to step up and say, no, we don't want to be managed. We want to make our decisions, and we are ready to take responsibility for the things that we decide. All right. Now, I call that the birth attendant, because midwives manage you. All right. They have a care plan for you, whereas the birth attendant does not have a care plan for you. She's like, you tell me what you want and I facilitate it. All right. Now, if you look at that, that's very desirable for many women. All right. Usually these women they have the presence of reassurance in them. They're not, we're all intrepid, and we're all like faced with the unknown, what's going to happen in my birth, but they're not afraid of birth. All right. And neither is the caregiver. They're not, they come to you with the understanding that this is a very intimate, instinctual experience that you're going to have. And you're inviting me in, and I will come as the wise woman birth attendant, and I'll sit in the corner. And if you need me, you call me and I'll come in. Or I can sit in another room, even if you're having an intimate experience with your partner and you don't want someone watching you. All right. I can sit with you. I can bring you what you need. And I can be the presence of reassurance in the room. The mother has to have that. The parents have to have reassurance in this. And what they also want to call in as that wise woman is somebody who is also there as the presence of reassurance in the room. I have crystallized it down. All right. And I have found over my years that women do want a companion in their prenatal time, in their pregnancy. They want to share it. They want a birth companion. And I have also found that in the postpartum, women really want someone who has witnessed all of what they've been through, pregnancy, birth, and now I'm integrating it with you in the postpartum. We're going to talk about all of that, because the postpartum is the time where you integrate everything that you've been learning through birth. All right. Pregnancy, postpartum. But you know what? I have found that in the actual birth itself, women need very little. I don't see that they need all this comfort measures and all of this whispering and all of this team of people. Rah, you're so strong. I'm feeling that women don't need that much during birth, and that a lot of things that we do to them that are even well-meaning, it's disturbing. It's keeping them out of their altered state. It's keeping them in ordinary reality. And that's where the pain is. That's where the pain is. All right. Have you ever had a headache or let's say you stubbed your toe and it hurts like crazy, but then all of a sudden your little baby kind of runs in and gives you a big kiss and you forgot about the pain. Why? Because the pain lives in ordinary reality, and your little one has brought you into this deeper state, and you're hugging her and loving her, and she's saying, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. You forget about this pain. Well, that's what happens in birth. A woman may have some pain, but then when she goes into these altered states, the pain recedes. Maybe it doesn't go away, but it's not the focus of her birth. And you know what? You know what happens? And it's ironic. You have a doula who wants to comfort you and help you with pain. But actually, if your doula keeps you in ordinary reality by talking to you and touching you and holding you and giving you information, she is keeping you in the pain place. Are you with me on this? This is important. This is why things are upside down. It's ironic that, to me, that the place that we want to run in and help women more than any other place is the birth. And this is the time she needs you the least. This is the time she needs you simply as that wise woman, simply as the presence of reassurance in the room. That's why you're invited. You're the presence of reassurance in the room. You're the wise woman. You're a fountain of information. You're very comfortable about where a woman goes. You're happy to follow her into those altered states, not lead her, not guide her. That's not a rite of passage, but you follow. I've always followed the woman, not led. I've always followed the labor, not led. This is why I don't see complications. And I thought everybody did this when I was naive. Okay. All right. I thought that's what a midwife did. She followed you and she followed the labor. Okay. And she witnessed your unfolding. Midwifery has changed. All right. So I'm looking at birth attendants. I'm looking at some people who want to be there for women who want to make their own decisions and are ready to stand up and be responsible for their birthing choices. In the US, that is not practicing midwifery or medicine. Why? Because you're not making any decisions. You're just giving information. All right. And as long as the parents are on that place with you and you very clearly understand, I do not have a care plan for you. I do not make your decisions. Therefore, I am not responsible. But I will sit with you as the presence of reassurance. That's what women are looking for. They're not looking for another type of clinical caregiver. They're looking for another type of caregiver, all right, who is more in the quantum model of care. We build a trusting relationship. We have soul level connections. I nurture you. You're self-directed, and I elevate you in that self-direction. Okay. I give you all kinds of information and options. You pick and choose. And when you choose, I say, how can I help you? How can I help you? How can we make this happen for you? What can I do for you? Okay. That's the person I want to be. And I want to be that person because it's innate to me, but it's also something that I see women want and value. So that's why I'm here. All right. That's why I'm still on the planet. And that's why I'm talking to you, because I see that women want this. All right. So there's another video out there if you haven't seen it. All right. It's called the open house for the cohort. That will give you a lot of the nuts and bolts and what we're going to do and how it works and, you know, what you learn and all of that. You learn your academics, you learn a wisdom. We have a wonderful wisdom keeping program where we talk about things, big things like healing your wounds. Now, I'm the kind of gal that says these are your wounds and you can do anything you want with them. And nobody gets to tell you to heal your wound. These are your wounds. But if you're in this business, or if you're, I would say, if you're in this realm, if this is your vocation, it really means something for you to heal your wounds. Why? Because you could end up directing someone else's birth through your wounds. Do you follow what I'm saying here? So the wisdom keeping is all about being mature enough to stand at the gates of transformation without taking that away from a woman, without being the star of it all. All right. This is important to me, that we show up appropriately, maturely, not reactionary. All right. So we have academics. You can learn all about this in that open house video. Ayla and I thought, well, we didn't need to repeat everything. Okay, you could always watch that video. And so we would talk more in this video just about the unfolding on the birth keeper. Now, I'm going to tell you this as an elder, that what you seek seeks you. All right. And if you have something for the evolution of this planet, you will not be wasted. I am suggesting that if your vocation is to work with pregnant women and families, raising the consciousness of birth to all the things that I've talked about already. All right. If that's your vocation, then what I want to do is facilitate you in being able to do that. So I created a midwifery education. All right. It used to be a correspondence course. It's had many permutations according to what women want. Right now, it's a cohort where we have some interaction. All right. It's not all just, on your own self-discipline. I find that, you could do that, of course, and many people do, but I feel like women get lonely. It's like, I need some other people. I need some, where are my sisters? And I need to talk to someone about what I'm doing because it's exciting. So we have study groups that people are in. All right. And you stay in your study group for a year. You are doing what I call your due diligence. All right. If you study a year in this particular program, you will be amazed at how much you know when it's over about how much you have learned. All right. You're not going to recognize it as it's happening, but once you graduate, you will realize how much you have learned. All right. And we do go over our skills, and not just go over them. You have 3 lessons on hemorrhage, 3 lessons on shoulder dystocia, lessons on, resuscitation and things like that. Okay. It is a midwifery equitable education, equivalent education. All right. It's what I would wanted as I went into basic level, entry level midwifery. All right. So I'm offering that, as an elder, in the sense that this is my life's work, learning about birth, and then, putting it into a program where other people can have the benefit of learning what I've learned over, 40 years, that kind of thing. It's the kind of program that you get the entire program right away, all of it, and you get to keep it forever. I don't take it away from you. You have a library of holistic midwifery, quantum birth. And I promise you 2 things. You will never regret knowledge. All right. You will never regret knowledge. You won't. It's precious. And the other thing is, you will get what you need from this program. And I don't know what you need. And I also know that you may not even know what you need. Okay. But I'll tell you a little story. All right. So one day it was early morning and I was driving down the road to see a client, and my drive was about an hour and a half. And I told you also, I think, did I tell you that my midwife came to visit me all the time? She lived an hour and 20 minutes away, but she always came to visit me. And I thought, that's so considerate. When I'm a midwife, I'm gonna meet women, at their home. So they don't have to come out, get babysitters. It's hot out, I'll take the drive. So I was driving along, all right, and it was a beautiful morning, a little deer on the side of the road, and the was dappled with the leaves. And all of a sudden, I had this like sort of altered state experience, which doesn't really happen very often. All right, I wish it did, but all of a sudden, I hear a voice in the car with me, and I mean, it said, "Women should come together and gather." Now, this is in the 80s, in the early mid 80s. And there were no sister circles. There were no women's festivals back then. All right, like there are now, women getting together all the time. This is like the voice saying women need to get together. They need to be in sisterhood and in solidarity. And I'm like, yes, I want to go. I want to, I want it. And the voice, and I said, tell me where to go. And the voice said, no, you need to do this. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it's like, you need to gather women. And I'm like, oh no, that would not be me. I'm good one-to-one, one-on-one, but I'm not articulate at all. A group of women, no, I can't do this. So I made the excuse, even though actually I wish I could. I wish I could do that. But I know, I felt like I didn't. And so here's what happened. I believe that when you are being invited on a soul level to accept or receive something, and you want it, but you're nervous and you don't feel like you might be able to do it, or you want to play some kind of game. Oh, I could never do that. And have somebody say, oh, but yes, you could. You'd be so good at this. Oh, I couldn't. See, that's all the game. I realized that was not going to happen. That I had said no, and all of a sudden I could feel the invitation being withdrawn. Okay. And I knew I'd never get another invitation like this again. This is a one-time thing. All right. So what I did was I just took a deep breath, and as the door was closing, I stuck my foot through the door. All right. And I said, okay, I'll do it, but I'm not sure how. And the voice was like, oh, don't worry about that. I said, well, that is what do you mean, don't worry about that? They said, no, we just needed to know your commitment. And I said, well, I'm committed. Okay. All right. And I said, so where do we go now? And I realized that there was like a little negotiation going on here, with whom I do not know, the powers that be, I trust. And I said, well, okay, how will I get this knowledge? How will I know what to say to people? And they said, it's already done. Don't you know that? Thought you liked Einstein. Everything's already done. We're going to help you tap into it. I was like, yeah, but yeah. Okay. And then I said, well, all right, this sounds good. I'll do it. But, here's the but. This is my request. I don't ever want to gather anyone together or teach, create a program or anything where people did not get what they need. I do not agree to waste anyone's time or resources or money or anything unless that person gets what they need. Do not bring to my door anyone for whom this program is not right. Okay, I want to make sure that everyone who takes this program gets what they need. And the universe or whomever said, yeah, good. Okay, anything else? I said, no, this is pretty big. I'll go with what we have. All right. I should have asked for a few more things. All right. Like, will you guarantee me a living? All right. But I didn't. I was just so I was just so enriched by what had already been offered. So that's why I can stand here and tell you that this program isn't for anyone, and I would never want to like sell it. You know what I mean? Oh, you need to take our program because, all right, I would never do that, because the people who come here get what they need. And I'm clear about that. And I'm clear that if somebody doesn't come, that this is not what they need right now or ever. Okay. So that's my story. We have 10 minutes left. If you have any questions, or Ayla, if you want me to talk about anything else specific, I'm down for that.
Wapio, can I just ask a question? It's Kate. So I'm not a midwife. I'm not a doula. But I'm a health coach and a yoga teacher, and I'm passionate about women. I've just become a grandma. I've seen the system. So I'm really passionate about women who are pregnant and just starting right back then, and then when they have their babies. And so I guess for me, the fact I don't have any knowledge, I mean, maybe a lot of the students who will study with you are already midwives and doulas. I can bring to it all the things that you've talked about. I mean, just listening to you, it's like you're speaking to my soul, and, I can tear up, and the beautiful stories you've shared. And I guess what I'm saying, is obviously that little that critic in my head saying, oh, you're going to be okay to do. Yeah. But as far as nurturing and caring for the woman, and because I've seen with my own daughter what she went through, and just women in general. I love working with women. I guess, like you said, I'm going to get what I need out of it, aren't I? I'm probably almost answering my own question here, but I guess there are some doubts because I've not been a midwife or a doula. Yeah.
Well, let me address that. And then also, I also feel this way about women who say, well, I've never had a baby. How could I be with a woman giving birth? How do I have any credibility? All right. So first of all, this is a great program for a matriarch. Okay. Why? Because in our wisdom keeping, we have all these matriarchal skills. We have good language and templates for helping people heal their wounds. We have a whole mediation training in our course. Okay. And I think one of the things of the matriarch is to help people find solutions. All right. So it's not consulting, it's more mediation training. So, all right. I mean, this is one of the best tools I have. I've taken lots of classes in mediation. I can help two people hear each other. Whether it's a woman and her mother, or whether it's a couple or anything like that. These are the things of my matriarchy. These are the uber skills that I have that I would really love to share with women such as yourself, Kate, who are in the matriarchal realm. You've raised your children. All right.
2 girls. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they're on their way. So now it's time for you to step into the role of the matriarch, meaning that not just your family, but your community, woman sisterhood. This is what you bring. This is what the matriarch holds. Creating those circles, creating those opportunities for mothers to come together, or young maidens, or everybody. All right. This is the matriarch. When the matriarch is also responsible for people getting what they need. She's responsible for the harvest. We associate her with the harvest in the sense that when the bounty comes in, it was always the matriarch who distributed it to make sure everyone got what they needed. All right. This is a wonderful season. I loved my matriarchy. I am in my eldership now, and there's a very visceral difference. In my matriarchy, I became so articulate because why? I'm talking to more and more people. All right. And I have a message, and I want to articulate it so people will listen to me. So we talk about that in our in our program. This wisdom keeping part you would love. All right. I love it. All
Yeah,
right. It's
no,
all
I
about
know. Yes. And I know the homeopathy part. I cannot wait to learn more about that, because raising my girls, I just wanted to have all of the medicine at home that with herbs and homeopathy. And yeah, so I mean, there's so many aspects of the course that just light me up. So yeah. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And I was talking to someone also who is not going to be a midwife or a doula. All right. And she said, but I'm going to take it. And maybe I won't do all of that heavy academics. Maybe I'll just skim through it. Is that okay? I said, absolutely. You can use this course to focus on what you want. And by the way, you'll have it forever. All right. And by the way, this is a course that should have no stress. There are no exams that you have to study for. There are no people looking over your shoulder. There are no papers to write. I mean, we don't write to our clients, we talk to them. So we ask you to make little videos, teeny, 3-minute videos explaining something, because that's going to help you learn to articulate your material, you see, and crystallize your material. So I feel like it's a very forward moving kind of class. We don't have homework. We don't have papers. There's no exams. I trust that, if you are standing at the door of transformation with other women and families like Kate would be, all right, you know what you need to know. You'll know what you need to know. It's in there. You'll ferret it out. You'll get it and you'll study it. And it'll be part of you and you'll never regret it. Because it's knowledge that's worthwhile and forward thinking. Okay. So it would be wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah.
I haven't attended a birth or given birth or anything. So yeah, this is really like the beginning for me. And I guess I was kind of like seeking out to work with someone to start to attend birth. So is that something that you would suggest we do, while we're taking the course, or would the course be something that we do and then start attending births? Like what kind of?
Okay. Any way that it opens up for you. Okay.
Okay.
So first of all, if you haven't attended birth, okay, what I tell women is a woman doesn't need you to have attended birth standing with her. But what she does need is that you know where she's going, and you can go there too. And where is she going? To an altered state. Can you go with me? All right. And that to me is more important than having had a baby or been to a birth. It's knowing where women go and knowing that you can go there with them. All right. You can be comfortable and conversant in an altered state. Okay. So then what I tell women to do is to, focus on what you need. What you seek seeks you. So there are women in the course who are also working with midwives, all right, doing apprenticeships or something like that. And they fall out of the sky. This one woman said, this midwife just called me up cold. I didn't hardly even know her. I knew about her. She called me up. She said, I know that you're studying birth. Would you like to assist me at a few births? She said, yeah. All right. So here's my point. When you start studying birth, you will have a vibration that people will know. And I can't promise you that a midwife is going to call you up and say, oh, would you do me the great honor of coming to birth with me? But I can say to you, what you seek seeks you. And if you have something for the planet, evolution, you're not going to be wasted. You don't have to swim out to the boat. It's coming in, all right? It will find you. So you can do whatever occurs to you. If you have the opportunity to go to some births, by all means, take it. All right. If something isn't happening for you, well, be patient. All right, it will. And yeah. So in answer to your question, if you find a midwife who wants to take you to births, by all, sure. All right. Sure. If not, don't worry about it. Okay. Because I would say that it's a third of the women are attending birth. Okay. And maybe half of the women are attending birth as doulas. And then there's the other half, such as yourself, that this is my first, this is, my entry level. All right. And it's a good place to enter. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Well, we have 3 minutes left.
I think
Okay.
Sarah wrote something in the chat there for you, Opio.
Okay. I don't see, are you telling me that I need a question that I need to do something in the chat?
No, it's not a question. She just wrote, I'm grateful to have found you. This has been something I've been praying for a long time since becoming a midwife. And that's from Sarah. She's
Oh,
in Ireland, I think. So, yeah.
okay. I see. I just pulled up the chat. Okay.
Mm.
Hello, everyone. I'm joining from Ireland. Who was that? Oh, Sarah. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Wapio. I just have my camera off. It's 2 a.m. here, but I'm very happy to be here. So thank you.
Well, okay. Where are you? You're in Ireland and it's 2 a.m.?
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm in Dublin. Dublin.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. And you got my email? Did I
I
tell you?
did.
that,
I did. Yeah, yeah. There's another Sarah. Is there from Ireland as well?
yeah. And I said,
Wow.
did I send you her email? If you wanted to
No,
reach out to her,
I'd love that. Yeah, I would love that.
I'll send it to you tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, I'm delighted. I'm definitely signing up. I can't wait. I've been a midwife for 12 years, but in the hospital system and then left. So I'm just seeing people not for birth, but just for conception and just minding them. And but this has been something that, has been coming in for a long time. And I just kept asking for the right mentor, the right wise woman. And voila, you have arrived. So thank
Thank
you.
you. Nice. That's very kind. Well, good. I'm glad to know you, and I'm looking forward to connecting, as we go on. All right. Yay. And okay. So I didn't know who else was here. Okay. So thank you, Sarah, and thank you for Erica. All right. Okay.
Just a quick question on the study group. I know as this course goes that is it a good opportunity or is it set up for offloading in the sense of having a sacred space to, oh, well, this is what went on in my birth, or yeah, I was witness to this happening, and can we dig a bit deeper? Is there spaces for that during that, in that sense of the cohort, for people to, which is maybe a bit of a necessary thing to offload to get on to the next bit of a
Okay.
release? Is that got us? Yeah, can you?
Well, when I ask for 2 hours of your time every week to be in your study group, okay, I want it to be productive time for you. I don't want it to be just, oh, well, what do we talk about tonight? Or, oh, I don't know. I saw this on the news the other day or something. I want it to be productive. All right. So I give you work to do during your study group. All right. I have seen some study groups also just decide that they want to do processing in the sense of we would rather just meet together and talk about births or talk about something that we learned rather than have a scripted out study group for us. So if everyone in your study group is willing to do that, I'm fine with that. We oftentimes have some people who are very academically oriented. They want their academics. Fine. I got you covered. There are some people who really prefer the processing, the wisdom keeping, that kind of thing. And if everyone in your study group is wanting that, then that's what you can do that. Okay. And I mean, if we had 10 people coming, we could have 2 study groups, 5 in each, and we could have one that wants to process and one, and one that wants to really study hard or get the material and whatnot. I want you to be happy. I want you to love birth and the study of birth. And I want you to love the people who are in your study group with you. We have the first cohort, we still have women in a study group. They meet on their own. Okay. I think it's great. So did I answer your question?
Yep, beautifully.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time, and to the ones that will watch it later too. It's amazing just to, be in witness to your elder wisdom. And yeah, thank you so much for making the space for this 2 hours, and deeply appreciated.
Well, and right back to you. Thank you so much for showing up. Okay. And I would really welcome any one of you, all right, to continue on. All right. And to continue on and have a very deep and meaningful year next year learning about birth. Okay. So thank you for showing up. And if you want to write to me, I have any questions, that kind of thing, I'm happy to hear from you. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Mwah. All right. Let's see. I put the chat on. Here we go. Okay. I'm just going to end the meeting, but let me do this with you. I always end the meeting with some sort of a blessing or a prayer. So let's just do this together. It has hand motions and it has words to it. And it goes like this. I come in peace. I come in friendship. I offer peace. I offer friendship. I hear you. I see you. I feel you. I treasure you. Our wisdom comes from a higher source and from below our feet. And I recognize and honor that in each of you. All right, let us work together. Namaste, the divine in me meets and greets the divine in you. Amen. So it be. Ashe. So it is. Alleluia. Give praise and thanks. And adiosa. Go with the goddess. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you and an honor. And I look forward to the future.